It's the Holy Hour, the All Cure bi-weekly podcast. I'm Gavin, and I hope you out there are doing wonderful, whether it be day or night. So thanks for joining us. We got a cool episode ahead for you. I hope you enjoy it. It's all things booze and cure related. How can it go wrong with that combination of things? But before we dive into all that kind of debauchery, I would love to give a big thank you to our Patreon crew, as always. Donna, Craig, Jeff, Matt, Jeff, Suzanne, John, Ben, Lisa, Scott, and Kate, and Allison. You guys are awesome, and I can't appreciate you enough. But let's do it with Echo this time, just to show how much I really love you. Up in Calgary, who also wants you to know about Dickens, a pub up there that's actually reopening September 2nd. So go check that out if it's not already past September 2nd. I'm not sure when we're recording this and when it'll actually get released, but it's open after September 2nd. Get up there, get yourself an in-person drink. We're back to that. Yeah, you can do it now. Or, if you just want to stay home and drink too and follow them on the live streams, they're going to keep that rolling. So Tuesdays and Wednesdays, 8 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Just go on over to Twitch and find Dickens YYC and follow along, and you can drink at home and dance at home too. And don't forget to join them on Sundays. You can do it too at 9 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. But, it's always funner in person. So just go on. If you're in Calgary, go over there and bring the party back to life. Scott Kruger, our buddy, is the co-host of the Sarlacc Digest. You're saying, what's that? As in the Sarlacc Pit? Of course it's like the Sarlacc Pit, because it's a Star Wars podcast, and it's the best goddamn Star Wars podcast out there. You've been wasting so much time trying to find a good Star Wars podcast, but this is indeed the Star Wars podcast that you have been looking for, and you can find it on YouTube on Monday nights, 8 p.m. Pacific time, where they hash out everything Star Wars related. No matter what level Star Wars fan you are, you'll enjoy this. These guys really know their shit and make it so much fun just to listen along. So be sure to check that out. You can check out all their past episodes there too, as well as everywhere else where you find podcasts if you just want to listen to it outside of the live stream. And our buddy Kate at CureThreads.com is back in action now. She's got the site up and all kinds of wonderful Cure merchandise over there that she has created from original artwork and designs inspired by the Cure. So go over there and check it out. Everything from flip-flops to beach towels, all kinds of cool stuff, and wonderful designs based on her talents, as well as her children's books that she's illustrated. So go on over there to CureThreads.com and see what she has in store. And don't forget about 17 Seconds Shirts.BigCartel.com if you want to see what the latest shirts that Chaz has whipped up for you guys on pre-order over there, or just follow him at 17_seconds on Instagram. Alright, it's time to do this. Let's get all that business out of the way. Go get your favorite beer koozie or that plastic wine glass, because you always break the glass ones. And let's see how we can match up drinking with Cure songs. Alright, as promised, I have a thirst-quenching episode for you guys this evening as we round out the heat of summer with a pairing of sorts episode. We're going to size up which adult beverages go great with which Cure albums, and how do they complement each other. So I do want to start here, though, throw out a bit of a trigger warning of sorts. If you're somebody that has struggled with alcohol currently or in the past, you might want to skip this one altogether, since we will be talking about drinks in great detail and why they fit into the situation. So no worries there. The last thing in the world I'd want to do is screw up anybody's progress, and sometimes just hearing details about that stuff can be a bit much. I totally understand, and I promise to hit you up with another more cure-related episode very soon. So if that's the case, no worries. We'll catch you next time. If everybody else is still on board, all my drunky McDrunk friends come gather around as we explore the world of cure in form of drink. But I do want to start out actually by talking about the evolution of this episode. If anybody's been listening to this for a while, you may have caught on to the pattern of how these episodes come to life. And a lot of times it's either one way or the other, where we get the idea or somebody gets in touch, and then they end up recording that episode like a week later and it's done and it's the next one out. Or they tend to stew for a very long time. This one in particular has been a very long since it came into my head as an idea, maybe about 8 months ago now, until it's finally coming to life. And it took on many different forms as I was thinking it through in my head. So I thought I'd share some of them with you, since it did mutate a lot over the last 8 months. But I guess it all started back when late last year, if you're following the show back then, I had broken my foot hiking, right? And that sucked and everything. But then it got worse with this cast they put on my leg. A couple of weeks after wearing the cast, I got this massive blood clot in my leg, and it was absolute hell. And so they put me on blood thinners, Xarelto. And though they never said officially don't drink on it, kind of seemed like the kind of thing you shouldn't drink on, right? So for whatever reason, and whether it be falling over because you're on the blood thinner, and then that would be bad news, or it's just your blood's already thin. I've always heard don't drink on blood thinners, and there's a lot of mixed stuff out there. So that was tough, because it was coming up on the holidays, and if there's ever a time, it's that. So I was just like, oh man, dying for a drink, but trying my best not to drink at all. I'd cheat a little on the weekends. But, so I started thinking about, man, cure drinks, albums, and then it kind of got furthered when I was mixing that episode that Arusha did with Chris and Janie on the Cure News episode of them starting up curenews.net, which you should still totally go check out if you haven't yet for some reason. And they talked about those cure drink events they had in the past, where it would be like meetups, for cure fans. And I was like, oh man, that would be really cool. And during this pandemic year, we could do like a Zoom where we're all just like meeting in a fake bar, but doing our drinks and talk about what we're drinking and what cure stuff we're listening to. So there was that idea. But then after, I was thinking of like, well, how many people? Zooms can always be a little chaotic. If you're rattling in a bunch of drinks and stuff, it could turn into a mess too. So then I was like, well, maybe just Donald and I will do an episode where we take a list of all the Cure's favorite drinks from those tour programs, how they always list out their favorite drinks and stuff. I was like, what if I compile all those and Don and I drink all of them? Like all of them. This is where my head was at the time. We were going to drink every drink that the Cure had suggested. But that's a lot of drinks, right? So, and it would just cost a lot, So I was like, one, we're going to need a lot more money. And, we'd have to like drink 13 drinks for each album in an hour or two, So, even by my standards, that might be pushing our abilities a little bit there. And I, wasn't going to try to get Donald to buy a bunch of drink stuff too. So that one kind of got put on the back burner. Then the Faith birthday episode rolled out, where we did do the Zoom, and kind of accidentally we started talking about, I don't even know how it came up, or if it may have even got edited out at one point, but we joked about pairing, when we were talking about how Robert said Faith was kind of a cocaine record, where, they had been experimenting with that while doing the album. We're like, oh, that seems kind of odd for Faith, but we're like, well, what drugs would match with what ones? And we started joking about matching drugs with each album. But then after we finished that episode, I was all like, well, drinks is actually possible. You could match drinks and pair them with each album. So here we are. I guess that was about close to the last incarnation of this. But I posted a thing on Instagram suggesting, what drinks would you match with Cure albums and which one do you think is the best match? So I've compiled all your write-ins from that and just various people I've contacted, one form or another in the last few months, and got your suggestions of which Cure. Some people would pick their favorite Cure album. Some just picked a drink that would match well with a album. So a lot of variations, but I'm going to go in order of all the albums, tell you my suggestion. We're also going to read what I have on some of those old tour programs of what the Cure was drinking for that album or suggesting to drink around the time of that album. And we're going to see if they match well. And maybe you can have a bender this weekend and you can just do all these drinks with every Cure album too and see how they match up. So real healthy stuff going on here, and look forward to sharing all these. And some of them are based, it's kind of like that old mixtape episode Chaz and I did. Some of them are personal memories or experiences that go with that album and what I thought made it a good drink for that album. And some are just pulled from references in the song or the albums or something. So a lot of variations, as I'm sure you had when you were choosing yours. So keep your ears peeled. We'll hear from a wide range of people, and we'll see. We'll go through them all together here. And then by the end of the episode, who knows what kind of condition we'll be in. So as I take a sip from my gin and tonic now, I tell you it will appear later in the list somewhere here. But let's see what happens. All right, no better place to start than the beginning, right? So let's take a look at Three Imaginary Boys, 1979. And I don't believe I got any submissions from you guys on this one. So what is making my thirst quenched when I put on this record? Lots of desert imagery with this album. I don't know if it's just subconscious from the album cover of Boys Don't Cry, which kind of goes in, but even just Three Imaginary Boys, it feels very dry, maybe based on the fact we got Fire in Cairo. So very, very warm. Killing an Arab, a lot of beach references there. So I'm going with something refreshing and like a lager or a pilsner or a pale, which tend to be my kind of favorite beers anyway. So the one I'm going to match with it, I'm going to shout out an Asheville beer, as I'll do for many of these. And I'm going to go with one of their older breweries called French Broad Brewery. The French Broad River is very prominent here in Asheville, and that's what the whole French Broad in this is about. French Broad Brewery. I've played many shows there at their tasting room. It's a pretty cool brewery that's been a staple here for years. And they make a Kolsch called Gateway, and it's I'm not even usually too big on other Kolsch's, but this one's great, and it's always my go-to one when I'm performing there or just hanging out, where it doesn't flat out knock you out like a lot of the higher octane beers will do here. But very refreshing beer that I could drink all day and have. So let's crack that first one and say cheers to French Broad Kolsch and Three Imaginary Boys. Moving on to the next year's album, 17 Seconds. We have another simple beer choice for me here. A lot of these are just going to be kind of straight up beer choices. And this one might be a bit controversial here. I'm going with my favorite from back in the day, Rolling Rock, because it's a very simplistic lager. It started it all for me. Kind of the real start of The Cure matching with 17 Seconds, as we've discussed in the past. So I kind of feel like there's a connection there. My first beer that I really fell in love with was Rolling Rock, because they used to drink it all the time at shows at the Black Cat in DC. All the bands would be drinking it. I'd later find out that was just the the free house beer they were probably giving them. A lot of people really hate Rolling Rock, but I stand by it. It does foam up real quick if you jostle it a lot more than other beers. I don't know what's in it that makes that happen, but it's refreshing, has its kind of own unique taste. I'll definitely take it over like a super cheap other beer like PBR, or even definitely like over like Natty Light or Bud Light or any of that shit. And it's usually in that same price range, so you can get a ton of Rolling Rocks for pretty cheap. So it was my 90s choice, and still holds up to this day, much like 17 Seconds. For the sake of Donald's input, he'd probably go with Hams for all these albums, but it's kind of in that vein, I guess. But it doesn't have like that metallic-y headache that I might get from cheaper other beers. Rolling Rock, maybe it's just because it's part of my bloodstream at this point. But I'm going with Rolling Rock for 17 Seconds. They match well together. All right, as we get into Faith, the birthday album for this year, turning 40 this year, still celebrating. You gotta celebrate it in true fashion. And we got Chaz, actually, our non-drinker, suggested a good drink to match well with Faith. He said there's a drink called a Galloway Grey, which I wasn't familiar with, but now I'm curious to check it out. Basically, it's Absolute vodka with some kind of cream, and then dark cacao liqueur. Sorry if I'm butchering these. All you true bar enthusiasts out there will probably laugh. But some triple sec and an orange. And mostly this drink all comes together, and it's gray. A gray drink doesn't sound particularly appetizing, but in this context, hell yeah, I would love to have a Galloway Grey while listening to 1981's Faith, the classic record. So yeah, I would probably change it up from the beer a bit for this one too. It's a very classy but dark album for me. So I would actually go with an old fashioned, and that's not me just trying to be my Don Draper self. It's a delicious drink. It's classy, and it hits all the right spots like Faith. I feel like something about any kind of bourbons too make me feel a little I don't know, I'm always a happy drunk, but something about bourbon always makes me a little grumpy the next day. It's not even a full-on hangover from it, it's just like a weird effect where I'm usually not a very grumpy person at all, but I have noticed a pattern. Even if I just have a couple bourbons that night, the next day I might be a little more like a little grumpy. So there's a little grumpy edge to Faith for sure, so maybe that's why it matches well. But as far as that, I'm going with that Woodford stuff these days. Makers is always great, but I've been really digging that Woodford bourbon. So that's my favorite. For an old fashioned, they say just pour the simple sugar in, have a little bit of water and bitters into a whiskey glass, stir to combine it, then place the ice cubes in the glass, pour bourbon over the ice, and garnish with an orange slice and a cherry. So maraschino cherry. So yeah, gotta muddle it. Yeah, the what is it? The sugar in there. So yeah, pretty good, pretty easy. Lots of variations of that. So if that's not exactly how you make your old fashioned, that's fine. And a lot of times I'm too lazy to make these at home, so I kind of save it for a special occasion. But they are delicious, and I feel like match Faith pretty accurately. Give it a try. Yeah, boy. Coming up on Pornography, 1982. This one could get dark quick with whatever you're choosing. So, yeah, what am I going to choose? I'm going to bounce back to the beer for this one. During the peak awfulness of my pandemic anxiety, I discovered a wonderful beer called Voodoo Ranger Imperial IPA from New Belgium. It's 9%. plus. But it wasn't just for that reason, but that helped a lot as I was like watching the evening news going, oh my God, we're all doomed. Usually a couple of these would start calming me down a little bit fairly quickly. So that's my go-to, because that's kind of what the album Pornography is like, right? It gets dark quick, and if you're drinking a 12-pack of those, it could also get you there quick. We got some suggestions that pertain to pornography off the Instagram thread. We got M. Wingati suggested absinthe. So there's another way to cut to the chase quick, is to have a glass of absinthe while listening to pornography. I could see how that would match up very well. There's Elizabeth NT that had sent in, how about a Cosmopolitan, which seems a classier surprise entry for pornography. She says use citron vodka, Queen True, and cranberry juice, squeeze of lemon, and finally shaved ice. Garnish with an orange peel. And put on some pornography on the turntable and turn it up. So yeah, can't go wrong with that. That sounds delicious and much like the album Pornography. Can't really talk about drinking and the album Pornography without mentioning the tower of beers or wall of beers that were stacked during the recording of this album. And fairly recently, Lowell posted some pictures of the infamous moment. I think it was just more the recycle bins after, or the beers that led up to this towering wall of beer cans. And in that recycle bin, or whatever they were doing with the bin, I saw lots of Guinness. We saw lots of Foster's, Carling Black Label, Beck's. So a lot of those kind of lighter beers like that we've been talking about. So if you really want to channel the band, maybe that's the angle you got to go. You got to get yourself some Beck's, some Foster's, throw a few Guinness in there, and repeat about 400 times. Since we're doing official albums, we skip ahead to top on this one. When you're putting on the top, 1984's very strange album. You're going to probably have a weirder choice for drink to go with this one, too. It's a little hard to say. This is the album that might even get Chaz to start drinking. But we got a wonderful suggestion from Tyler, actually. Old friend of the show, Tyler suggests a drink called the Midori Sour, which I haven't had, but I've had variations close to this. But it does sound very perfect for this. The Midori Sour is an emblem of 1970s excess. Its chief ingredient was launched in the U.S. in 1978 by Suntory, the Japanese company best known for its whiskeys and beers. Midori debuted stateside at Studio 54, actually, the notorious New York nightclub, which was fitting venue for the bright and showy liqueur. So a Midori Sour is an ounce of Midori, which is a type of liqueur, I guess, and vodka and lemon juice, freshly squeezed, about a half ounce of that, half ounce of lime juice, and club soda on the top, and then garnished with a lemon wheel. That's how it was when I looked it up anyway. And that does seem pretty fitting. So thank you, Tyler. Yeah, I want to have one of those. That seems pretty good for the top. Didn't know of any like kind of Middle Eastern drinks that might go well with it, but that would be my other feel just from the sounds of that record. I would maybe just go simple with like a tequila sunrise for some reason. That seems like that would be a good drink to drink while listening to the top. Those will sneak up on you fast and make things, like anything tequila related, it'll grab you quick. But that was actually one of Robert's suggestions too from the first tour program that I was able to track down, where it had his drink selections for 1984. Oh no, this was from the official fan club bio. So Robert suggested tequila sunrise, or just a cold lager, cold milk, or Earl Grey tea. So an old Earl Grey tea is usually thrown in there to offset all the booze choices. So yeah, I'd go with Robert's choice of a tequila sunrise too. So those all seem to match well with the top. All right, as we come up on 1985 and the head on the door, the band is heading in a new direction, new lineup, stepping into the golden era, if you will. And that album features the song The Blood, so we'd be foolish not to associate that song with this album. And if possible, you have to have a big old bottle of the Blood of Christ, or technically it's called Tears of Christ. A Portuguese port wine, from what we're able to piece together, that Robert drank, as Isabel reminded us in the thread on Instagram. It's what he drank while writing the lyrics, or so the story goes. And I've heard it's pronounced La Crema Christi. So a version, I'm not sure if that's the exact type that he had, but that translates to Tears of Christ. And the actual quote from Robert concerning the matter was, "Yes, I'm paralyzed by the blood of Christ." That was poetic license, because I changed it from Tears of Christ, which is a drink. It's a very cheap Portuguese wine. It's a very heavy drink that all the workers drank. It's about 12 pounds a bottle, and I was given a bottle of it, and I drank it. And I noticed the label, which is the Virgin Mary with baby Jesus under one arm and a bottle in the other. It was completely brilliant. This is drunk by hundreds of thousands of people, and it's a very visionary drink, really. I was convinced I was Portuguese. I just sank into this reverie of being a Portuguese flamenco guitarist. And I believe that was taken from carenews.net when they're talking and explaining each song for each album there. So yeah, that's flat out him just drinking this Tears of Christ port wine and getting schnockered on it, and that's what the song's all about. There's a little bit more lore or myth to the song too. The Tears of Christ comes from an old myth that Christ was crying over Lucifer falling from heaven, and his tears on the land gave divine inspiration to the vines that grew there. So the sides of Vesuvius are deeply scarred by past lava flows, and its lower slopes are extremely fertile, apparently, and dotted with villages and covered with vineyards. And that's how that all happened, right? Because Christ cried his tears down. And so now you get this delicious wine. So, yeah, with that in mind, there's a side note. Hell's Bells documentary Chaz recently sent me, and I referenced this thing way back when we did the Head on the Door episode, and I remember laughing as a kid. We had stumbled across this on the Religious Network, this super long, like 3-hour long documentary about the evils of rock and roll music and how Satan's taken over your mind if you listen to any kind of rock and roll. Everything from pop music to heavy metal, and they just go through it all in this thing. And there's a quote they pull up, Head on the Door, and it says, "As Robert Smith says, I am paralyzed by the blood of Christ." And they're saying that he's mocking the blood of Christ in this song, and the whole thing is just Robert Smith mocking the, actual blood of Christ and the impact and all this. And really, it's just about getting shit-faced on a Portuguese wine, which I love. So definitely check that out. It's on YouTube. And just the whole thing. The Cure comes up numerous times if you've been following Chaz's Instagram. He's put little clips from it up. And that's what this was. I had it recorded on VHS years ago, just that one part. And it was driving me crazy. I can never find it again. But that's apparently from that doc. Do you even call that a documentary? I don't even know. But so yeah, if you're listening to the Hell on the Door, I think it's time to track down some port wine. A Portuguese port wine would be good. If you can find a Portuguese port wine called La Crema Christi, then I think that's about as close as you're probably going to get to whatever he drank. I haven't been able to find it yet, so We'll see. If I'm keeping it more reasonable, I'll lean back towards an old staple of mine. It's probably my favorite local beer in town, Pisgah Pale. It's from a brewery in Black Mountain, which is just east of Asheville, and it's a delicious pale. It's got a little more pizzazz in it than your normal pale ale. Kind of along the lines of a Sierra Nevada pale, maybe. But again, Pisgah Pale. So delicious. Totally recommend it if you're anywhere near Asheville. They don't tend to ship them out too far outside of the area here, but it's definitely my go-to. And like we've said with Head on the Door, how it's probably the most palatable Cure album. This is my most anytime beer drink. It's very Head on the Door. Even has a green label on it, so it feels a little more Head on the Door for some reason. So if I can't get my hands on some Portuguese port wine, I guess I'll settle for a delicious Pisgah Pale. So I didn't have the program for Head on the Door tour with drink selections, but there was one for Standing on the Beach tour in '86 that had everybody of what they were drinking on that tour, apparently. And Robert is cited as a lager and an orange, or cold milk and vanilla. And again, topping it off with some Earl Grey tea. Lowell, drinking Irish whiskey. Porl, tea. We'll see a pattern with that. Having the tea. Simon is going for vodka and grapefruit juice. Greyhound, right? Isn't that Greyhound? Vodka and grapefruit juice with lots of ice. Those are delicious. Like almost too delicious. You just drink way too many of them. And Boris is going with a Bloody Mary. So I could see that being a good match too. All right, it's 1987 now, and Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me is playing on the turntable. Kind of goes without saying, and maybe even be cheating with too much Cure historical context, but I feel like you just have to go with mass quantities of red wine for this album. Seems impossible to drink anything else, but like I said, maybe that's just because there are so many images and stories floating around of them just endless amounts of red wine while recording this album in the French countryside. So my pick is a French wine that started out as the house wine at our favorite local French restaurant here in Asheville, where we were paying way too much for it by the bottle, and then I realized you could get it at the grocery store for like $12. So it's great. It's called La Vielle Fermée. I probably butchered the hell out of that. Let me try it again. La Vielle Fermée. Red. It's got a big old rooster on it if you're trying to find it. It's great though. It's fresh, fruity, and well balanced. Rich and spicy wine that offers deep cherry, red color, ripe fruit aromas. Its flavor combines black currant and blackberry with a yummy finish. It's an easy drinking bottle and a perfect match for pizza and burgers and such. So, you can drink it with anything. It's delicious. I could definitely testify to the easy drinking. I usually go for the big boy version of this too. They sell the big bottle of it. So when I'm cutting loose, it's a good affordable red that usually holds up over the years. It hasn't seemed to have lost too much of its quality and taste. I love it. And definitely have listened to Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me numerous times while drinking it. If you have a favorite red that you drink during Kiss Me, I'd love to hear about it. The Cure, according to Cure News, Robert Smith is drinking Kirin Lager, Bud, so Budweiser, Guinness, Bloody Marys, and milk in a box. In 1987, according to Cure News. Simon drinking Guinness and Jameson's, and Lowell Irish whiskey, sticking to the Irish whiskey, much as Porl was sticking with the tea. Okay. In the tour program, it's slightly varied. Mead and milk is what Robert was putting down. Simon sticking with the Jamesons, Porl sticking with the tea. Boris is going with Bloody Marys again. Lowell put yes, question marks. So I don't know if that means like yes to everything at this time period. Roger is also in the mix at this point, and he's drinking tea as well. So Roger and Porl holding down the fort there. All right, Disintegration, the epic classic album from 1989. Many of our favorites. And I gotta go with red wine again. I'm more of a wino at heart, believe it or not, even though most of my choices so far have been beer. Delicious red wine, can't go wrong with that. So I'm gonna pull out one of our old fanciest bottles from back when I could afford a fancy bottle. It's been a while since I've had this, so I don't know if the quality's held up. But there was this delicious French wine, Bordeaux Chateau de Ferrand Saint-Emilion Grand Cru is what we would look for on the label. I am far from a wine connoisseur by any means. I love pretty much all of it. But what does make me really love a red wine is the full-bodiedness. Just when, I don't know, my wife calls it, gets in my pickle pouches. I just love it when I feel the red wine in my jawbone, which is a weird description, but if anybody's read wine descriptions, it can't be any weirder than what they said for this delicious wine. They call it a metal taste, not even metallic. It just says metal. Some smoke, some sulfur, salt with a slight undertone of overripe berries or a fig. It's a fairly complex nose, but not huge. Acidic with minimal tannins on the palate. Tannins on the palate. Yes. Green vegetables, dirt, gravel, underripe cherry to taste. So there you go. I'll just say I love it because it's full-bodied, and I'll drink it all day, any day, but definitely with Disintegration. The best album ever. Robert was drinking cold cider at sunset in 1989, according to the tour program. Simon, just straight up vodka. Roger was joining the drinking party by this point, and he puts down champagne. So, Porl sticking with the tea, and Boris is even getting on the red wine train with me there, and kicking him back a delicious bottle of red wine. As well. We got a contribution from I Love Butter on Instagram, and she says with Plain Song comes on, you gotta drink gin martini with wild vermouth garnished with a leaf of fresh mugwort. She also goes on to say that she does this with cannabis strains too in songs, and suggests that you smoke a little of the GG strain while listening to Same Deep Water as You. I don't smoke, but a lot of friends and family have, and actually have mentioned this GG strain. So, yeah, have to give that a whirl. Seems pretty fitting for Same Deep Water as You, so give that a shot, people. According to something I came across in Cure News in 1990, so we'll count this as the mixed up portion, maybe. Robert mentioned a beer that was one of his favorite beers, and it's called Ruddle's Country. And I started to look it up at one point. They'd been bought out or something, so I don't know if you can find any of this or what it got bought at, if they kept it the same. But if you really want to drink what Robert's drinking, try to track down this Ruddle's Country beer. Maybe some of our English friends out there can clarify what that is exactly. But if it's got Robert's stamp of approval, it's got to be pretty good. All right, let's move on to Wish in 1992. The band is blowing up huge at this point. Wonder what they were drinking. Who knows? Well, let's find out what the tour program, the infamous tour program from 1992 that I always wished I had bought at that show. Donald bought it, so we have it as a reference still. It's all over the internet. Robert Smith, what were you drinking in 1992? Oh, I was drinking Jumilla. What the hell is that? Jamila, wine from the Mediterranean coast or southeastern Spain. Supposed to be delicious. So, sounds good. Sign me up for that. He's also drinking Coors, though, dropping it back down to a less classy. And vitamin D enriched milk. So, sticking with his milk there. So, showing what a good, healthy boy he is, even after a long night of drinking. Robert likes a nice, cool glass of milk. Help those bones, keep your nice, healthy bones going. And Simon was drinking lager with white wine and coffee. Probably not all together, but separately in 1992. Pearl was still sticking with the tea. Boris, you could put him down for Kingfisher beer and Kir Royale. So I don't know if I mistyped some letters there. K-I-R, Kir. Oh, Kir Royale. That's what he was having. So yeah. Cloudberry was also mentioned by Robert, drinking that, and conveniently that's also a song title from Long Lost Wishes. So a Cloudberry might be worth a try while listening to Wish. I punched in the recipe for that. It's like whipping cream, pineapple juice, lime juice. Cloudberry is actually a liqueur, so an ounce of that. That with vodka and triple sec. And rim a cocktail glass with pineapple juice and sugar, and shake the ingredients, strain it into a glass, garnish with a cherry and an orange slice. So sounds pretty rad. I'll try that out. Cloudberry. I'll put the recipe to some of these on the Facebook page too, but you could probably just Google the names and get like a variation of whatever recipe seems the best for you. But my choice for Wish is gonna go my classic gin and tonic that I got here. I love a gin and tonic. It's very straightforward, but has been a staple of my drinking for years. And it all goes back to a personal story I'll share. 2001-ish maybe. My brother's friend was getting married, and we went to the wedding reception there. And there's an old Cure friend, too. I really want to get her on the show here because her Cure backstory parallels my early days for sure. And would be really cool to lock all that down. So I'm going to try to talk to her soon. But anyway, at her wedding reception, my brother and I were kind of sitting in the back. We're keeping a low profile. But somehow we got seated at the table with this guy who kind of came into the wedding late. He had paint on his hands. It's kind of schleppy looking, but just looked cool as shit. And we ended up sitting with him at the reception, and he was giving me these tips. I was like what, 20 something about that point, 21, just been probably fresh 21, 22-year-old. And he's like, yeah, if you go tip them real good at the bar, they'll hook you up with the booze at these wedding things. Which is kind of weird because it's an open bar. You could just go back. In my later, more experienced drinking, I know you just go get another one if you want another one. But if you want to get hooked up with a lot of the booze in the drink, you tip them real good. So I thought that was cool as shit. And he would tip me off. And I don't think I'd ever had a gin and tonic till that point. And that's what he was drinking. So it was a hot summer day in my memory. And it just totally felt like in Indiana Jones when River Phoenix is getting the guy puts his hat on him and he becomes Indiana Jones at that point, or it's this coming of age moment where I was getting schnockered on gin and tonics at this wedding with this guy that I just thought was the coolest dude in the world for whatever reason. And he was drinking gin and tonic, so it was good for me. From that point on, I started making lots of tall ones, pint glasses, half gin, half tonic, throw a lime in there, you're good to go. It is a great summer drink. I usually lay off the tall boys at this point, but man, yeah, again, just dangerous because they're so refreshing. But something about Wish, I think it gets me giddy and chatty when I should drink gin and tonic before every episode, but that might cause trouble too. But it's a good fun drink. I feel like I get chatty when I drink it, and it's a fun drunk. So that's kind of how I feel about Wish, I guess, because it really covers all the emotions with the heavy tracks, but is a fun album too if you want it to be, much like gin and tonic. It's diverse, that's what I'm saying. 1996, we jump ahead to Wild Mood Swings. What on earth could go well drinking with Wild Mood Swings? You know it's going to be a wackadoo drink. I'm going to just go with a margarita. I think it matches great. I think when I threw this thread out on Instagram, the picture I used when I was drinking, even typing that up, was a margarita. My favorite kind of margarita, though. There used to be this place called Lucky Otter here in Asheville, and it was just magical. They showed us that all you really need for a margarita to be delicious is a limeade margarita. Just fill it up with tequila. Doesn't even have to be the fanciest tequila, and limeade. Put some salt on it and put a lime in there, or however you want to top it off with. And that's really all you need, limeade and tequila. You don't need to put that mixer stuff in there. Definitely keep it on the rocks. Everybody has their preference, of course, but these are just golden. They used to make them around a corner at this burrito place where the burritos were all right, they weren't great, but these margaritas were just blew my mind. They were so good. And they would just knock you out too. They'd put so much tequila in it, but it was delicious. And so many great things happened just being at that place next to our old house. And one time we just went over there and had a bunch of them. We're like, let's buy some damn Australia tickets. We went to Australia, and that hasn't happened since. But at the same time, it's great. It's that kind of magic that could happen from a margarita like that. So I suggest the limeade margarita to go with Wild Mood Swings, because it's a little kooky and has that kind of Latin flavor to it. I don't know. I Love Butter again suggests that you try the Blue Dream, which is a drink, because it matches well with a Pink Dream, the B-side from that album. And a Blue Dream is a pina colada mixed with rum and a Curacao liqueur, blue Curacao. I'm probably saying that wrong, but sounds delicious, like a form of a pina colada. So I want to try that out. That sounds good. Yeah. Robert in the tour program for this was drinking his milk still. Also lemon juice, homemade lager, elderflower champagne, and Earl Grey tea again. So Simon, lager, Perry, water, Jason, anything with tequila. So he's on board here. Must be residue from that 13th video or something that's making us want to drink tequila while listening to Wild Mood Swings. And Roger's back to drinking the tea as far as the tour program goes for this one. So yeah, I don't know. I think that it's gotta match as Wild Mood Swings for me anyway. He's drinking that margarita. Blood Flowers 2000. We're back to Dark Cure here again. So I'm going with cheaper red wine on this one. I'm back to the red wine. Much like Blood Flowers, I don't think it's quite on the level of Disintegration. So we'll just go with another red wine, but maybe not as fancy a bottle. So there's that Line 39 red wine that I've had in the past. It's kind of a standard. It references the 39th parallel line that runs through the heart of California wine country, but also 39, the song that's on Blood Flowers. Yeah, why not, right? So most California wines don't really do it for me too much, but I'm not too picky, like I said, a red wine, if you know what I mean. So I'll have that bottle. They say they select the grapes from the most prestigious growing regions throughout California to create a range of expressive wines, from traditional reds to vibrant whites. So Line 39, yeah, that'll go good with Blood Flowers, and you'll probably finish the bottle before watching me fall even ends, so might want to buy two. Arusha definitely set in a pairing for the Blood Flower, since that was her era following around that Dream tour. She would know. And she says, drink a Budweiser and whiskey to go with Blood Flowers. So we thought it was over. That was supposed to be the end. And so you got a Budweiser and a whiskey. And I remember in a past segment she had recorded saying that she remembered seeing some Budweisers outside of a hotel door or something, so that had to have been Simon. So there's some connection where, I don't know, is that his go-to? I need to clarify that with Marusha. Was he a Bud man at this era? Maybe still is. I don't know. But Budweiser and whiskey does sound pretty good for blood flowers. Gotta admit, I think I had a whiskey down for a long time before changing my answer. So, I don't know. Give it a shot. All right, we're coming up on the home stretch of Cure albums, believe it or not, as we're only in 2004. But we got the self-titled album. I think anybody who's been listening to this show kind of knows how I feel about this album. So I'm going to need something strong. I'm going back to the bourbon. And that grumpy hangover I'm going to have the next day is kind of how I feel in general, as a metaphor for this album maybe. But, still going down. So I'm going to go with a cheaper bourbon maybe this time. I'm not going to splurge for the Woodford. I'm going to do a Black Label Evan Williams maybe. Even maybe one of the cheaper Evan Williams, and just kind of shoot it on down, or mix it with a Coke even, or something like that. But let's go with Evan Williams. We're going to feel a little grumpy in the morning, but it's going to be a hell of a ride. This one's for you, Roth Robinson. ...2008, we got 413 Dream, and it's a strange album, a lot of mixed feelings on this, a lot of mixed emotions, a lot of pros, a lot of cons. A lot of people say it's better than people give it credit for. Some people, it's their most hated Cure album. I kind of agree with all that, but at the same time, I enjoy it thoroughly, much like a variety pack of beer. They sell those. There's a local brewery here called Highwire that I like, that I haven't shouted out yet, so that's a good one. And they have some great diverse beers, and they have these variety packs. And I'm usually not a variety pack kind of dude. I usually like one mood or not when I'm drinking. I'll stick to that. But I bought them for my brothers and such, and kind of enjoyed just him seeing the different flavors and such. And I feel like that matches 413 very well, where there's some amazing stuff in that box and on that album, and some that I'm like, it's not bad, but I probably wouldn't come back to it that often. So I'm going with the Highwire Variety Pack. It usually has an IPA, a high-pitch IPA is real good. It's got a little more bang for the buck, and a lower, more session IPA that they usually throw in there. And then they got the lager that's really solid from Highwire. It's really good. Then they usually throw a weird one in the variety pack, like a Goza or Gose or Goza, right? Isn't that how you pronounce it? The German style beer that started to bounce back in popularity. Not really my favorite, so kind of on par with a little song I like to call Freak Show. It goes right in the back of the refrigerator. All the official albums. I did come across something that was called the official Cure drink, and I think what they're trying to reference is those orange juice type drinks that are always on stage in more recent years when the Cure play live. I always just assumed it was like a tequila sunrise or a screwdriver, which is like orange juice and vodka, right? So that's what I always just assumed it was. But this said that the official Cure cocktail was red wine and orange juice mixed, which I've never tried that. I usually don't want to waste some red wine, but kind of curious of how that would taste. Has anybody tried that out there? So they said that's what it is. You could do it with orange soda in red wine too, as a different type of drink. And that was credited to a guy named Trong that I stumbled across somewhere online. So maybe that's the official cure drink. They call it the cure drink. One imaginative girl also said on that's her handle name. I'm sure she's an imaginative girl too. But maybe we can make up a drink. Does Bob like spicy stuff? How about a Robbie Mary? And take your regular Bloody Mary recipe, but change it up with chipotle and black cracked pepper. Says, okay, yeah, I've made this before. It's actually my husband's signature drink. For him, it's a Terry Mary. So, no problem. But I agree. Robert and Mary should have their own signature tribute Bloody Mary recipe, and we will use that, especially if you can vouch for it. So, sounds good to me, and we'd love to try that. We also got a comment from Evidently Chicken Town, who said, this is a great idea, but sorry, I'm kind of useless. I don't drink alcohol, but I'm curious. So yeah, hopefully we had some good suggestions for you. I wanted to throw it out for non-alcoholic drinks too. So let's ask the most sober person I know, my son, Henson. If your favorite album is Disintegration, what drink do you think would be tastiest to drink while listening to Disintegration?
Ooh, that would probably be apple juice.
Apple juice with Disintegration?
Yeah.
Good choice. Any reason why?
Nope. I just feel like that would be good.
Yeah, can't deny that.
Nope.
All right, 3 of our faithful Patreon patrons also contributed a few ideas for drinks. Scott Kruger of the Sarlacc Digest said that if you're listening to Disintegration, which you should be, it also pairs well with the cold weather and a nice thick stout. And if you want something a bit more refreshing when you're listening to Wish, it sounds best with Jameson and ginger ale and a wedge of lime. And I couldn't agree with you more there. Sounds wonderfully refreshing. Matt Fisher says that, hey Gavin, I have 2, though one is more of a bit of a nostalgia thing. He says 413 Dream in the middle of the fall, getting ready for darkness. You crack the window a bit and the night air is catching that cool breeze with some apple cider with cinnamon is always good, cold or hot. He says he prefers hot. And yes, totally. Didn't 413 Dream come out a little before Halloween, right? So yeah, that sounds perfectly good. Some cider, maybe throw a little whiskey in there, you know what I'm saying? For the actual drink, he's got a drink called the Self-Titled. It's 1 part Natty Ice, a pinch of Everclear, a twist of goat milk, and a dash of sweat from Ross Robinson's workout jorts. Shake until brown and then serve over ice, and the realization that it's been 13 years since the last Cure album. Yep. Just swallow it down. And Ben was kind enough to write in and tell us that last fall, on a nice, cool, crisp Sunday morning, the wife and I made some really good coffee and added a couple ounces of the honey liqueur Bärenjäger, and then topped it off with some Ready Whip and a dash of cinnamon. So kind of along the same lines there. Then we put on the Blu-ray of Anniversary, opened all the windows to let in the 60-degree morning air, and cranked it up. It was one of the most fun mornings ever. I know Anniversary isn't a studio album, but hopefully this counts. And if you've never tried adding Bärenjäger to coffee, I highly recommend it. And yeah, like I said, Anniversary totally counts. That's a wonderful idea. And yeah, I just love this, making me long for the nice, cool, crisp mornings. That's 2 people that have referenced that now. I'm about done with summer. So let's do this. Let's try this. Let's all put a little Bärenjäger in our coffee. I have yet to do that, but I totally am on board. Thank you guys. Ben, Matt, Scott, you guys are awesome. All right, we got a wonderful segment here to close out the show. I zoomed in with my brother, and he's going to whip together a special cocktails that are Cure themed that he has decided to present for us here. So let's see what my brother Owen is doing up in Fredericksburg, Virginia, and what kind of magical drinks he can make us to go along with our Cure listening. Well, here we are, guys. We got a wonderful segment we've been planning for the top off this drink episode with my brother, who hasn't been on the show in a while, man. So welcome back, Owen. And
Hello.
And we were planning to just have some wonderful Cure-related cocktails, but as of tonight on Saturday when we're recording this, who knows when this episode will actually come out, but it's August 14th, Saturday. Hopefully the day that will not go down in infamy. Breaking news.
It's the end of the Cure.
It might be the end of the Cure today. Yeah, according as of it's about 10 o'clock at night, and we're all holding out hope that Simon's post on Facebook was hacked, maybe. Or a very vague statement. Seems like a weird way to announce after all these years that you're done. But it basically just said, I am with a slightly heavy heart, not even a completely heavy heart. Have to say I am no longer a member of the Cure, which I initially took as like I'm quitting. But if he's saying I'm no longer a member of the Cure, maybe it wasn't his choice even.
Yeah, I think Robert told him to get out of the room or something. That's what that sounds like.
So, time to go home, Simon.
I think, yeah.
Well, either way, I figure this is a good reason to have a drink now at this point. It was more about
toasting.
So, Jesus Christ, who needs a drink tonight in the Cure world?
Yeah. I don't even care what the story's about. Let's just go to shots.
Well, I think this is even more of a reason to have two drinks. You said maybe you might be able to whip up two specialty Cure-related drinks, you think, for us here on the episode?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot that goes into this as a historian of both real history and cocktail history, and it's all history in the end. But when you challenged me to come up with the cocktails that were either directly Cure related or evocative, I felt like High Fidelity with the top 10 list, and I spent far more time worrying about it than I should have. And so I started searching ingredients for different titles and different things that would be easy and cheesy. And I found a lot of heaven cocktails and things, but I started getting more into it, as I'm known to do. I don't do anything half-assed. And I started thinking about darkly and say, well, if you're doing a Cure cocktail thing, you can't do, a tiki drink. It doesn't really make, I could see Robert enjoying a lot of tiki drinks, but
or just a lot of drinks in general.
Have one of each, the whole bar. Yeah, but no, it just sort of, you had to think about it. And, drinks in themselves could be intimidating to folks, with cocktails. You go to a bar and most people, a gin and tonic, or this is a beer from his region of England or something like that. But I kind of went darker. I guess maybe that's kind of therapeutic in a funny way of thinking about the gothy roots of the Cure or the spooky roots. And I was like, so many things with cocktails, and particularly historic cocktails, they go so far back to like romantic kind of, black and white film era, and something deeper, and just it's not the cheesy crap. You're not getting the New Orleans margarita mix with a Cure song kind of thing. So I dug deep into some of my cocktail books, and I came up with two wonderful historic cocktails to share with you tonight.
Right.
I am already testing one because I took me that long to figure out the audio parts there, but I had to jump ahead and get warmed up. But the first cocktail of the night that I am having right now, delightful, is a controversial cocktail, which is edgy and dark. And you raise this to your bartenders and you ask them, you got to be really careful because this is really polarizing it's kind of like wild mood swings within the Cure universe there. But the drink's not wild mood swings is kind of tiki, but this is more, I don't know, maybe pornography kind of, like you either really like it or you're not. It doesn't do it for you for the Cure. And the reason for this, it's a classic. It's called The Blood and Sand, which sounds definitely macabre and spooky, a little spooky. Yeah. I mean, I can't really, the humor of that is the blood sounds very Robert Smith, but like, yeah, when you think of him on the beach, that doesn't work. It's like the Portlandia with the goth people on the beach. It doesn't really work.
Lots of beach references though with the Cure. So
that's strange. But it's a horrible beach in Brighton. They're all like dirty beaches in England, like the Smiths video, kind of thing. It's like, oh, it's so hot. So the Blood and Sand, it's a 1930s cocktail, and it was named after Rudolph Valentino, the silent film actor. There was a bullfighter movie that he did called Blood and Sand about him, Death in the Afternoon and kind of Hemingway-esque long before Ernest Hemingway. What's crazy about it is it's a cocktail, and I'm holding it here on our visual. This is like Kermit the Frog doing the tap dance thing on the radio here. So I'm holding this lovely cocktail for you here. It basically was a homage it's got scotch in it, orange juice, and this really fancy Dutch sherry liqueur. It's called herring sherry liqueur, and when you mix it just right, a bit like a tequila sunrise, where the orange juice, the scotch, and a little bloodiness in there, whether it's a bloodiness from the cherry liquor or a navel orange or a blood orange, it's a little mysterious. But I mean, honestly, who cares? You're drinking, and it had this bloody cocktail look to it. The funny part was the movie kind of sucked even in the 1920s. Like they were like, it's Valentino, and it's I don't know how you could really bomb at the box office when there's literally no words in the silent film era.
It was probably the only movie that year, so they were like, we're really looking forward to this. Like that was your movie.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
So kind of funny though. I thought that was very funny. But the funny thing about it is that it's it is a sort of a weird cocktail, and that made me laugh. There was really I watched a video. I was sending you little clips, like trailers from the movies beforehand of the silent film and things, and it's definitely worth looking up if you're going to drink a Blood and Sand cocktail. You could actually watch the whole movie in its entirety. I don't know, maybe you have a talented spouse that could play the piano music next to it, but like, if you're more lonely than I thought. But that's something Robert Smith would probably do, just like, I want to watch this 20s film and drink a lot. So, but yeah, the funny thing was I was watching a YouTube video. I want to give credit to the guy. He's the educated barfly. And he said that the cocktail is one of those controversial ones among, classic cocktail bartenders. He said, might not be for everyone, but if it is, it's the one that's definitely for me. Like, that, and I kind of chuckled, and I thought that summed up the Cure in quite an excellent kind of way. It's kind of imbalanced and has quirky character to it. And
what's it that makes it controversial though? Like, what's the part that turns people off normally?
The fact nobody likes scotch in a cocktail. Now, if you guys are making it, you should use a blended scotch for it. Don't get into your like really fancy malts or anything like that. That if you want to do that, you should go listen to Scottish folk bands and whatever. Just get drunk and your sad rich man scotch. But you can use blended. I saw Famous Grouse was the thing they were using. I have a nice bottle called House of Stewart, which looks appropriately bottom shelf for Scotland, but it actually is imported from Scotland. But a nice smooth blended. You want a little smoky, but not too smoky. What's controversial is you put orange juice, and a lot of people think putting orange juice in a cocktail is kind of grosser. Guy on the thing was chuckling that in certain cocktails because it's more exotic from the 30s and stuff. But if you're using orange juice, ooh, you're not cool, But I think it's pretty brilliant, though. And actually, it's much easier to get an orange and just squeeze it out there. But yeah, it was really sweet. It was one of those funny ones. You buy it. I had made it for the first time tonight, and I was, pretty impressed. It's quite refreshing. I think, anything with scotch, you want to drink it more towards the fall. I don't see you on the beach drinking many cure cocktails, to be honest, unless it's in Brighton in the fall. But yeah. So cheers! It's brilliant. It's really, really tasty here, and I'm enjoying
awesome.
it.
We'll definitely put the full recipe online there, and sounds good. It definitely sounds very Killing an Arab adjacent too, so it could go in there with all the controversy of that song too, in the sense of people always misinterpreting it and such. So, well,
that's what I was laughing. You could really go down the rabbit hole with these. It's like, well, it could also be the blood from Head on a Door too. So
yeah,
you have and that's got that sort of Spanish dive to it. So, and that's a bullfighter.
Yeah.
So there you go, the blood and sand of the bullfighter. Actually, that's probably better.
Go with it. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I think that's actually brilliant. Now, why didn't we think of that? There's no sand in the cocktail. It's you're drinking scotch and you're in Madrid and you're running a bull through, and that's totally thing. And that ties into Hemingway drinks, which we could do a different podcast.
Yeah, do a whole podcast just on cured drinks. I think I'm coming to that conclusion.
Yeah, well, you might be if Simon just lets them in.
Yeah, maybe we'll take a whole new angle at this point.
The other drink that I was going to feature for you was the Widow's Kiss. And it was a really gothy drink in a dark and dark sense, and very French and old. Everything about it is old. The drink was invented in the 1890s. The book that I'm reading these from, if you are somebody who's into historic cocktails and kind of wants to get into this thing, it's called Vintage Spirits and Forgotten Cocktails.
Vintage Spirits and Forgotten Cocktails?
Yes, yeah, and the guy's name's Ted Haigh, Haigh, also known as Dr. Cocktail. I don't know where he got his degree at, but I'm sure it's pretty cool.
I didn't know that was an option for studies.
Yeah. I had a prescription from Dr. Ink all through college.
Yeah.
Got a sick note from Dr. Ink. That's what you tell your boss there. So, get it? Yeah, there you go. Nice. All right. So his description of it was quite brilliant, where he was saying, this is the cocktail, if you were going to find the recipe, you'd sneak up into the attic and find your nan's old steamer trunk, and you'd be smelling all these weird old people smells from the old world, and musty old sweaters and spider webs. And I was like, this sounds awesome. Like, what kind of, what was she drinking back in the Paris and the thing? And sounded so good. And the cocktail, the Widow's Kiss, was invented in the 1890s at the New York City Holland House Hotel.
Okay.
But what's cool about it is, for a very old cocktail, it's all classy old French ingredients, and that's the kind of thing that also, gothy old sweaters, trying to make out with Helena Bonham Carter kind of cocktail there. The thing that was really cool about it was all French, and something, Robert Smith, this was with a Widow's Kiss, it has to be a kiss me sort of themed cocktail there.
Yeah.
But the thing that's awesome about it, very French. I warn folks, it's a very expensive cocktail to make these days. I've bought a lot of these things, but got a kind of sticker shock today on a few of them. But the key ingredients is Calvados, Benedictine, which is a liqueur from France, and chartreuse, yellow chartreuse.
Can you usually get most of that stuff at liquor stores, or where do you get them?
You can. North Carolina's funny. I was very underwhelmed when I was in the Outer Banks at the outer, the North Carolina one didn't have a lot of stuff. Here in Virginia, they'll order you things, and there are places in New York that will deliver to you. I don't know what the North Carolina rule are. You have to check your local things, but look up online to you. They FedEx it. You just have to give them a ID to do it. But these expensive bottles are the kind of thing, you buy it. They cost $40 to $60, but they last like a lifetime on your shelf. Like, it's just a teaspoon, a half an ounce or whatever that goes into them. That book that I was mentioning, they kind of constantly come up. And I laughed at the Benedictine I had never bought before. And with that, I can make, I've had 2 or 3 or 10, 15 years of making fun cocktails. But yellow chartreuse is really cool. Even if you're just in a liquor store, take a look at it. It's kind of a really neat, kind of liqueur, and it's really kind of high potent. But it was actually made by French. It is still made by French monks since 1737, and the recipe came from 1605 from a French artillery officer who gave it to the monks to make, because I don't know, he needed to pay them off. Before he was dying, he's like, I have this recipe for this. It's kind of a little like, if you drank it straight, it's kind of a sambuca-y kind of, but sweet, kind of licorice-y kind of thing. That's neat, but it's really pretty. It's funny. It comes in yellow and green. I can't afford both bottles. I have the yellow bottle, and the yellow seems to be used in more cocktails, a little sweeter. But it really kind of definitely spooky, kind of cool looking thing. If I was a bachelor guy trying to show off, you put like a light on it and have it on the bar kind of thing. It's that cool there. It's an interesting thing. As a fly fisherman, I'm always into colors of things and stuff. But chartreuse, yellow chartreuse cocktail liqueur is the only color named for a cocktail, not vice versa. It's not the description. So chartreuse was invented before the color chartreuse. They saw the color. So when you hear chartreuse, it's just named for the French liqueur that you see. So that's pretty brilliant. That's actually kind of how old this drink is there. So
that's cool.
If you're a fly fisherman, you can there's all kinds of chartreuse jokes, but we won't bore everyone here. So but humorously, the other ingredient that's a little tricky to find, but it's a little cheaper, about $30-$40, is Benedictine, and that's an 1800s one. But that's kind of funny because the guy who invented it, he faked that it had a monastery connection. So in France, it makes it cool. I guess the monks are all big boozers, so he lied that it did, and he even made up this whole story that monks in Normandy made it and stuff. And it's all totally crap, apparently, which is pretty funny. And I love with history how things always come around. Apparently, it's not that it's even named Benedictine to make it sound like Benedictine monks. So it must be a play on the chartreuse thing. It's like, oh, they got something brilliant going there. I'm gonna steal that. But the great humor is that, fake. And then the funny thing is, not many people in France even bought into it. It's not really popular in France, apparently. It's exported to the U.S. and in England far more often for these old historic cocktails. And one of the things I always love with history, whether it's pure history, any history, all ties together, and it's kind of brilliant. This French cocktail has English roots because the soldiers in World War I that were all stationed in that area of France where Benedictine is made, all picked it up, and they thought it was brilliant, and they loved it. And they happened to be regiments from England that were stationed in the Burnley area of England, and they all took it back, and it became like a family traditional toast at like holidays and things to their soldiers they lost. And they kind of brought the tradition back of, oh, you have to have this French drink that no one in France likes, and it's pretty brilliant. And so awesome. 40% of the imports to England go to this one little region to this day, still affected by the tradition brought back from World War I. And I thought that was freaking brilliant. Cool. Like, how cool was that? All these English kids are like, why do we have to drink this horrible, sweet French stuff after Christmas there? And it was a tradition brought back from the British soldiers there. And I thought that sounds kind of dark and Curie in a sense there. It's a Great War, miserable. And then the last ingredients to the widow's kiss is Calvados. It's the World War II. It was huge in World War II among American guys because it's made in Normandy. It's apple brandy, and it's the apple brandy that they would make all over there with the apples and where the Allies landed. What was really funny about that was all the GIs would go looking for booze to drink when they found the blown up French houses, and they kept finding this drink that they thought was like schnapps or something that was quite sweet and nice to drink. But Calvados will knock your socks off. It's like real brandy, and 80 or proof or higher, and so these guys were all getting hammered on Calvados after surviving D-Day, and that's near and dear to my heart. So, but if you can look up Calvados, Calvados, French apple brandy. I made it tonight with apple brandy from Virginia, because we have some really good apple brandies there, and you don't want to go buy a $50 bottle. You want to kind of get the cheaper stuff because you're making a cocktail. But if you do get the $50 bottle, just put it on ice in an ice cube or not, and just sip it like a good whiskey or brandy or something like that. But it's brilliant. So yeah, I thought it is a funny love-hate thing with the English. Kiss Me, having the whole French ties to it there with the album, and seems like the English always have a love-hate thing, particularly for France. I think the English always love France far more than the French love the English, and that makes me laugh. Where in France did they actually record it?
Marieville. It was a region.
Do you know what region that is?
South France, in the countryside, about 40 miles from Cannes.
Okay, so yeah, it's more beachy. It's definitely not Normandy or cool French. It's more their California kind of French. Yeah.
Southern, eastern side, I believe, a bit more.
My French friends, it's like their Florida Daytona.
Yeah.
my French friend JB would comment that's where they drink all the cheap light wine that the college girls drink is all from southern France, the darker Burgundies and Normandy kind of thing.
Well, that was kind of the thing.
That kind of makes me laugh. So
the lore of recording the album was that they basically stayed there for 10 weeks on this area. It was a chateau there, and the rule was if you rented the whole place to record or do whatever the hell you're going to do there, I guess you get unlimited wine of whatever, as much as you can drink. And like Robert and Lowell basically took them to task on that.
Idea.
So it sounded like this magical time where they're like driving around Jeeps. There's these stories of like them like driving at night and they get stuck on a cliff and then just walk back, and then the next morning they realize the Jeep's like hanging off the cliff basically. so they almost died like 20 times. But what happens in Marieville stays there, I guess.
Yeah, apparently.
It stays there because they can't remember anything.
So to keep the podcast authentic.
There we go.
You got it? Can you pick it up?
Yeah, I think so. Let's give it there. Are you making the Widow's Kiss right now?
I'm going to pretend I did.
Mm-hmm, just making a difference.
The Widow's Kiss tastes quite horrible, actually.
Oh, yeah? You were?
It's a bit... No, it's actually really nice. It's look it up on Google. Google it. It's definitely, if you like sweet cocktails. I don't really particularly like sweet cocktails, and it was very sweet. Very complex. It was kind of the thing that, it was funny you make the joke about the old lady kind of thing. It seemed like something that you would have as a cordial or something after a nice dinner for Thanksgiving or something, like a bit of a, little aperitif kind of, nice sipper thing there.
Well, I like the idea that of the this mysterious dark goth drink, and then it's a little bit overly sweet. It's kind of like Kiss Me. We're a little like Why Can't I Be You comes in and like just kind of fucking ruins the. It's just where did the dark mysterious shit go? And it's like no.
Well, it's totally The Cure. I mean, totally. The Widow's
perfect
Kiss,
girl comes in.
It's like tastes like bubble gum. Like what? It does taste like an old person. It's like if you mixed your bubble gum with that old butterscotch that your grandma kept in the car under the hot seat, it's like, it's kind of good, but this is definitely old fashioned and not what I would normally have there. So, if you ever wanted to have like a dalliance with your old nan, that's this is the cocktail. This is
So it's less mysterious. I thought it was like the widow is like the dark side, almost like the song The Kiss, where it was more like, but it's like, nope, she's just a legit old ass widow, and then she's giving you a kiss. She's like, I'm 90, of course I'm a widow.
This is the sweet little drink that she's making before she goes to bed and hopes to die.
Falls asleep and pours it all over.
Sweet thing. that's going to touch her lips, because she's got a pension. She can afford $60 bottles of yellow chartreuse. So,
living in the French countryside.
I'm afraid I undersold the widow's kiss.
Hey,
I was like, blood and sand, I'm totally making for any good cocktail party, but widow's kiss, you got your vampire coming over, Helena Bonham Carter, actually having Robert Smith and want to show off, that's the kind of thing there. And then
he'd be a little perfect.
Like, this is great. Can we have...
It's how a lot of people feel about Kiss Me too. It's like sometimes it's a little bit much, Just, it's like you could have trimmed it down a little, maybe. But at the same time,
they were having fun.
The right time and right place. It's perfect.
So,
awesome.
Sounds good. Dim the lights. Put on The Cure loudly.
Yes,
it is amazing. I was laughing. I got into the Cure thing for today. I was just always better with the volume turned up. You can't keep it on. If your husband or wife won't let you turn it up when you're listening to The Cure, you should probably reevaluate your relationship while you're drinking this cocktail.
Totally.
Because I can't imagine listening to it turned down.
Yeah,
I'm not a guy that turns the stereo up a lot, but you gotta get into that and really enjoy it there. And that's it. I hope everyone enjoys their sad but happy music while drinking something that's sad but happy, a cocktail.
Exactly. Couldn't sum it up better. Cool.
Thanks so much for having me on the podcast.
Anytime, man. Thanks for being our expert, classing it up with a few good drinks. My selections were a lot of just beers, generic wines. It's like we got to get some real drinks in here. I'm going to call my brother. So thank you for ending the episode on a high note. So and maybe we'll do a follow-up where we drink all of Simon's favorite drinks. So it'll be a Simon tribute episode where we'll go through all the because and a lot of
he doesn't look like he drinks that much, judging by his fitness level.
Yeah, they probably all slowed down a bit, but I think he'll still kick some beers back on stage and stuff. I think he's still got it in him.
That's probably why Robert kicked him out of the band.
Yeah,
stopped drinking entirely, and he became insufferable.
Maybe.
I'm going for that internet rumor. I'm going to go tweet it right now.
Why not throw it in there at this point? Cool.
Hey, awesome, thanks for having me. Best of Chaz and the guys there.
Yeah, man. We'll talk to you soon. Cheers.
Excellent.
Okay, there you have it. Plenty of drinking ideas. So something you can enjoy while listening to The Cure. As if you needed help. But special thanks to Owen. Always a pleasure. If not drinking with you in person, then talking about it. My dear brother, thank you so much. And thanks to you guys out there for listening and contributing your 2 cents on that Instagram feed, as well as the Patreon crew for letting me know what drinks you enjoy while listening to The Cure. Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts and on YouTube so you don't miss any upcoming episodes. Just about gonna have, I think we're down to the last few of those oldies being dropped back into the Apple feed too, so I'll send out a message on Instagram that everything is where it belongs finally after all these years. So go over to the Holy Hour Podcast on Instagram so you'll see that notification amongst all the others. And on Facebook, follow us on the Facebook page. This episode in particular, we're going to post some of the recipes that we talked about and some pictures that go along with it. And if you have something, if you missed the boat on this one but want to contribute, that's a great place to throw some more extra content out there for everybody to share. Drink ideas or whatever ideas. So, or email me, gavinconnor@gmail.com if you have any comments or questions or just want to say hi. You're always welcomed in my email. It's coming up on fall soon as we round out of summer, and you're going to want a long sleeve Lullaby t-shirt. Hell yeah. You might remember a while back, Chaz made an awesome Lullaby shirt. If you missed out on that one, you got a second chance, and it's coming to you this time in long sleeve fashion. So you want to go over to 17_seconds on Instagram and check it out. And he's putting 2 up at the same time for about another week and a half maybe or so when this posts, maybe another week. So get over there fast. when you hear this, go right over there. You'll find that, and you'll also find a cool kind of mashup shirt he made of The Cure, but it's in like Misfits font, and it has like a cartoon kind of drawing version of Robert Smith wearing the pornography mask there, the white face with the red eyes, and it looks badass. It's very Misfits feeling for Halloween, perhaps. Both of them waiting over there for you guys to come check out and pre-order at Chaz's 17secondshirts.bigcartel.com. And if that mouthful just went in one ear and out the other, just go over to 17_seconds on Instagram. And it'll get you there, so make sure you get those pre-ordered in time, and you won't be sorry. Until then, we got lots of cool episodes on the horizon, and we'll talk to you soon. Go have a nice drink, listen to some Cure. Talk hard.